This C5 Z06 has one of the most common problems C5 and C6 Corvettes face, and that is it's got a bad oil pressure sending unit, and today we're going to fix it.
Toys for life.
You don't have to raise the Z06 up to change the oil pressure sending unit, but if you're tall like me,
I'm somewhere between 6'10 and 6'11 and closer to 300 pounds than I'd like to be.
it is a little easier on the back, so being as how the C6 is occupying the lift, getting a supercharger installed. If you haven't seen that series, it's up in your upper right hand corner. I'm going to go ahead and get this up in the air just a little bit. That's going to be quite a bit better and make it so that I don't have to bend over quite as far. Step one, of course, is to remove the negative ground cable from the battery so that you don't somehow cycle the fuel pump while you have the fuel line disconnected. That would be a dangerous situation. Step two, of course, is to remove the engine covers. Next, I'm going to blow off the top of the engine, get all the debris off there I can, so that when we remove the intake, debris doesn't fall into the intake ports. Next, I'm going to remove the evap line from the intake and bleed the extra fuel pressure out of the rail. The evap line looks tricky, but all you have to do is push on the side and it will come off. Next, I'm going to unplug the throttle body, disconnect the hose to the intake, and unbolt the throttle body so that it's out of the way. That way, when the intake is unbolted, it can slide forward, whereas right now, this is going to run into the power steering reservoir. There are two wiring connectors that need to be disconnected from the throttle body, one on each side, and then I will remove the coupler connecting the air bridge to the throttle body and set it aside. There are also a couple of hoses to remove on the passenger side that I will show you in just a moment. And of course, there are three 10mm bolts that hold the throttle body to the intake manifold. Now I can pull the throttle body forward just a little bit and set it down. Next, I will remove all 8 of the fuel injector connectors, and there are 4 on each side. Removing the fuel line comes next using a quick disconnect tool, and I like to immediately wrap and zip tie each end of the fuel line to prevent any debris from getting inside, which could easily clog a fuel injector. Okay, I've got the fuel injector connectors off. I've got the evap line off. Of course, this plastic tube broke. It's so brittle, it could just shatter. So we'll replace this. I've got the harness zip tied out of the way because I don't like to fight it when I'm taking off the intake manifold. We've got the throttle body pulled out of the way. That way I can move the intake forward and get it out of there. I still left it connected though because there is a line down there and I don't want to risk the chance of making that leak by disconnecting it. Let's go to the other side. This side's a lot cleaner. I've got the tube and the PCV valve is right inside that rubber thing right there. That's disconnected. Everything's disconnected and pulled away from the intake. And I'm going to stick my hand back there and disconnect the manifold absolute pressure sensor, which is the last electrical connector on the back. And we'll disconnect the vacuum line from the brake booster, so that'll be ready to fish out. Okay, I've disconnected the manifold absolute pressure sensor from behind the intake manifold. My big hands can fit in there just fine. Disconnected the brake booster line. Now I'm going to remove all of the bolts for the intake manifold and see if we can't slide that out carefully. We will have to route the brake booster hose around the oil pressure sending unit and make sure it doesn't get snagged on too many things as we're pulling out the intake manifold. I like to break all of the intake bolts loose by hand first and then zip them out the rest of the way with an electric ratchet. 8 of the 10 intake manifold bolts, just lifting them straight out, but the back 2 initially won't clear the cowl and they'll get hung up. So I always put clothespins underneath them and lift them up a little bit so they don't get hung up as you drag the intake manifold forward a few inches so that we can get this vacuum brake booster line fished through there and allow us to pull everything out without it getting snagged on everything. I just want to document the path of this hose so that when I put it back together, I'll stick this hose back behind the little nubbin on the valley cover and underneath this wiring harness right here. That way I know I've got it in the same location it was right now. And once you get the intake pulled forward just a little bit, there's also a vacuum line that goes on the back of the intake manifold. This powers the air injection on later models, and it's also the source of vacuum for some of the vacuum-operated doors inside the dash. So now everything is disconnected from the back of the intake except for the brake booster hose. So we'll gently pull this out and fish that hose out as well. It's always crazy what you're going to find underneath the intake. It's always a little bit dirty. Here we've got somehow some corn, probably from a rodent at some point, but not too bad. Underneath these covers are the knock sensors. They look pretty clean and dry. Some guys recommend replacing these while you have it apart, but then I've seen plenty of other guys who have had no knock sensor issues replace them, and all of a sudden they have knock sensor issues. Either they're defective knock sensors or they bought cheap ones that are calibrated incorrectly. So he doesn't have any issues. This looks pretty clean. I don't see any signs of water intrusion. So we'll be leaving the knock sensors alone. I'll be stuffing towels inside the intake ports so that when I clean this, we don't get anything in the intake. And then we'll be removing the oil pressure sending unit right here and replacing it. Okay, I've got all of the ports plugged with cloth so nothing can get inside there. I'll use a scraper and a vacuum cleaner to get the big chunks off. Then I'll use some solvent and a cloth to clean all of the residual debris off, especially around each one of the ports. Even though these have a high failure rate in C5 and C6 Corvettes, I think the GM ones are probably the best ones to put in, so that's what I go with. If you've got a high number of these that you've replaced, you're a shop or something, let me know which brand you think seems to hold up the best. I checked with this owner and he opted not to do a relocation kit, so we'll just be replacing the sensor. Another thing that people ask a lot is, what do you use for sealant on these? And to me, at least the AC Delco ones, you've got a beveled edge here, which implies that it probably seals against a similar beveled edge inside where it screws into. It also appears to have a little bit of sealant on the threads, and it also has a crush washer. So it looks like there's 3 different mechanisms they've got so these don't leak. One more quick blow with the air hose and carefully remove the oil pressure sending unit connector. Then using a thin wall socket, I believe it's a 27mm, go ahead and unscrew the sensor. Again, here's our AC Delco sensor, new crush washer. It's got a little sealant and a beveled edge. We'll thread this in and snug it down. Easy peasy, then just reconnect its plug. It's really pretty easy, but the problem is you just can't get to it. Next, using some solvent, I'll go ahead and clean the faces of the intake ports on the cylinder head so they're free of all dirt and debris. Got the intake manifold tipped upside down. All of these runner O-rings are really flat, and there's 8 of them with a whole bunch of surface area, so we'll be replacing all of those with this kit from Felpro. Includes all the gaskets and these foamies if you need them. A lot of times these foamies are falling off and they're just disintegrating. These are in good shape, so I'm going to leave those alone. Then I'll go ahead and clean out all of the oil from the pocket that seats the new gaskets. Then we'll blow out all of the runners to make sure there's no debris inside. The gaskets have a little bit of a nub on one of the corners, and there's a nub in the manifold as well. So you got to make sure the nub lines up with the little nub in the manifold, and it can only go in one way, so there's no risk of having it in upside down. Also, the little vacuum port on the end of the manifold, I've seen it several times where it gets clogged with debris from disintegrating plastic lines going underneath the battery over to the vacuum canister. So make sure yours is opened up and it's not clogged by sticking a small drill bit inside of there and then blowing it out with an air hose to make sure any debris that may be lodged in there is removed. All right, we've got all of this area cleaned with a rag and solvent. Rags removed from the intake ports, and the intake manifold is ready to slide on. Here's a better look at the manifold absolute pressure sensor plug and the vacuum line that'll need to go to the back of the intake. And over here is the connector that goes to the knock sensors. To help make sure the brake booster hose is routed where it needs to go, I've got Mrs. Toys for Life here for a moment while I set the manifold gently in place. Now I will apply a drop of blue Loctite to all 10 of the intake manifold bolts and get them started by hand. Make sure all of these are started by hand before you run an air tool on them, because otherwise if you strip one of these out, that's a bad day. Make sure you connect the map sensor and put on the vacuum line. I'm watching very closely to make sure these are just barely snug, and I mean barely. Then I use the torque specs from Summit Racing to cinch the intake down, and it consists of 2 passes. Note, these measurements are in pound inches, not pound feet. Please don't wing it when doing this. There is a specific order and a 2-stage torque spec process for a reason. Now I go ahead and cut the temporary zip ties I used to hold the harness out of the way and start reconnecting all of the fuel injector and coil pack harness plugs. You can kind of see it, the evap line that broke before was replaced with a piece of flexible hose in its place. Now I'll go ahead and reconnect everything on the passenger side as well. Next, the throttle body is reconnected and I torque those bolts down to spec as well, and my manual says 107 pound-inches. Now I can go ahead and reconnect the aftermarket air bridge, and I believe this one is a Veraram with a slip-in flow booster. I like the air bridge quite a bit, but I'm not so sure about the flow booster. And the hoses on the passenger side are next, followed by the coil pack connector, and finally, cinching down the clamps on the throttle body connector. Before I actually started it, I cycled the key. You just want to make sure nothing is leaking from the fuel line. That would be catastrophic. That looks good. And then, obviously, the next thing we want to look at is just to make sure that our oil pressure gauge works. And sure enough, it does.